Anyway, for the time being, Donald Trump is now doing the Charlie Kirk event, a posthumous Medal of Honor being given to Charlie Kirk.
He loved those enemies so much. You know, I heard he loved his enemies, and I said, wait a minute, is that the same Charlie that I know? I'm not sure, but I didn't want to get into it. But it was a horrible, heinous, demonic act of murder. He was assassinated in the prime of his life for boldly speaking the truth, for living his faith and relentlessly fighting for a better and stronger America. He loved this country. And that's why this afternoon it's my privilege to posthumously award Charles James Kirk, our nation's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Thank you. As you know, only hours ago, I returned from a very historic trip to secure peace in the Middle East. People said that couldn't be done. Charlie felt it could be done. Thank you very much. But I raced back halfway around the globe. I was going to call Erica and say, Erica, could you maybe move it to Friday? And I didn't have the courage to call. But you know why I didn't call? Because I heard today was Charlie's birthday. And I said, you know, that was a definite. And I said, we're going to have to forget about some of those very big, very rich countries that expected me to be there. And I can tell you, based on the length of that flight, I wouldn't want to go back tomorrow.
For Charlie.
But I would not have missed this moment for anything in the world. Nothing. And it's a very important time for our country. And our country is doing so well. It's never done better. We are a country with almost now $18 trillion of investment coming in. Nobody's ever seen anything like that. Previous administration had less than $1 trillion for 4 years.
We're back to the self-suck chatters. You already know.
He's there. He's looking down on us right now. It's so incredible. Look at this, how this turned out. This was supposed to be so dark and cloudy. Not dark and cloudy, is it? Look at that, how beautiful that is. There's no artist that can capture it as beautiful as it is today. Wow. It's amazing.
Wow.
As I said, on the day that he was assassinated, Charlie Kirk was a martyr for truth and for freedom. And from Socrates to think, and to St. Peter, from Abraham Lincoln to Martin Luther King, those who change history the most, and he really did.
I can't stand the fact that they compare him to MLK, especially because he has routinely on MLK. Charlie Kirk has straight up said horrible things about Martin Luther King Jr., and now they're comparing him to Martin Luther King Jr. as in the affirmative. I don't even know if he would like that, personally. Like, what are we talking about?
Yes, we will talk about, they look like they're doing well.
Once this is over, we'll talk about the political piece, but it's like obvious to me that they're trying to keep this alive to the best of their ability, and they're failing to do so because in this day and age, it's very difficult to keep people's attention on one thing and one thing only. That's number one. And number two, it's not only very difficult to keep people's attention on one singular focus, one singular news story, and secondly, like a lot of people obviously didn't really like him. A lot of people also had their, their negative associations with him. I mean, this has on Fox News has 34,000 live viewers, like as opposed to the previous WWE style funeral proceedings that took place. Like people have moved on from it already.
Especially in the wake of Charlie's assassination, our country must have absolutely no tolerance for this radical left violence, extremism, and terror. We're done with the angry mobs, and we're not.
I do think that like.
Our cities be unsafe.
The other side of this is that like Trump can't have singular focus on any issue that doesn't revolve around himself. No matter how fortuitous this could have been for their ambitions to violate the First Amendment and to further prosecute political enemies of the state, his own ego, his own narcissism is unironically getting in the way of him communicating how serious this is, how important this is. And wait, he actually did mention how a bullet missed him, but it hit Charlie. Is that what he...
They seem to become very violent on the left. They've rammed vehicles into federal law enforcement, fired sniper rifles at ICE agents, and me, But I made a turn at a good time. I turned to the right. Charlie couldn't believe it, actually. He said, how the hell did you make that turn? I said, I don't know.
Oh, my God. That was a meme from like the second day. A day after Charlie was shot and assassinated, someone said it's going to be, y'all are complaining right now, but just wait till he talks about how he dodged a bullet expertly and Charlie actually didn't. He's going to talk about like skill issue. He just can't even, talk about it. Like he can't even talk about this stuff without being like, I do everything so good and Charlie loved me. In order for him to make a coherent case here, he has to literally elevate Charlie's status above himself, and he literally cannot do that. In order to successfully create the martyrdom narrative, he has to make it seem as though Charlie is a more valuable person than he is, and he is physically incapable of doing that.
But if this were a year ago, they'd have a serious chance of being badly hurt, even killed. They'd come in from Indiana, they'd come in from Iowa, they'd come from Florida to see their nation's capital, and somebody would have to call the parents, I'm sorry, but your son or your daughter's been killed. Not anymore. You hear those sirens going off? That's good. That's a good sound. That means they either got the bad guy or they're going to stop the bad guy. You didn't hear that sound because nobody wanted to do anything.
Yeah, no sirens were ever heard in the nation's capital before I got here and decided policing is back. It's nuts.
They're about 3 miles away. That's great. What a beautiful sound. They're stopping crime. That's what they're doing. And that's why I said last month that I have directed the Attorney General and the Department of Homeland Security to confront the very real threat of left-wing terrorism in our country. It's a real threat. Not when you confront it, it's not, because they're not brave people. In fact, they're cowards. When you confront them, they immediately fold. You have to see them fold. You have to see them crying. They fold. But it includes dismantling the networks that fund them and finance them, and we're finding out
You can't expect him to talk about Charlie Kirk uninterrupted for an hour, chat. Of course the speech is going to fall apart, and he's going to start talking about the Taliban, the left, radical.
With beautiful wood, beautiful cardboard, wood, everything. Everything's perfect paint job, and they're all the same. There are thousands of them. You know that they weren't made in the basement out of love. They were made by anarchists, and in some cases wealthy. I'll probably find some of my nice friends that are up there being so nice to me, especially lately. They're being very nice. But it surprises you who they may be, and you almost wonder why would they do it? But they're hurting our country, and we're really taking it back. So we hold his memory in our hearts forever. Every single day of this administration, we will continue to carry out the mission for which he lived, and he really did. He lived for this country. He lived for his wife and his family, but he lived for this country too. In Charlie's honor, we will continue like we have been to fight, and to win. We're going to win so much. So the Presidential Medal of Freedom is a big deal. You have the Congressional Medal of Honor, military, and the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is civilian. And the Presidential Medal of Freedom is a really big deal. Very few people get it. Very few people, frankly, qualify. It's a decision of the president, but it's a qualification that's a very hard one to get. And I would like to ask, if I might, the military aide to read Charles James Kirk's citation for the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Charles J. How do chatters react to this? It's still 10 years into this bullshit.
The Presidential Medal of Freedom is awarded to Charles James
What
Kirk.
do you mean? This is our president. We just have to deal with it. We have to take it one day at a time, okay? It is what it is.
Charlie Kirk was one of the most influential American political figures of his generation. At just 18 years old, he founded Turning Point USA and grew it into the largest conservative youth organization in the nation. For over a decade, he tirelessly traveled the country, leading a movement to restore respect for our founding principles, reawaken our national identity, and inspire a renewed spirit of religious devotion. He was one of the great debaters and communicators of his time. Despite receiving repeated threats, he remained undeterred and modeled courage, logic, humor, and grace to the next generation. On September 10th, 2025, at age 31, Charlie Kirk was assassinated while addressing a group of students. The United States honors him as a martyr for truth and freedom.
Can you take the medal back once it's given to someone? Can this be reversed? No, I don't think so. That would be crazy, though. How does Candace Owens feel about this? Not being a part of this? Well, she decided to go with Israel did it as a route, and she will be permanently outcast for that reason.
In meaningful way, and thank you for making this event a priority.
I do think that there are different groups, different factions within the right now that actually do. There are different factions within the right. Some of which actually do think that there was like suspicions. Some of which don't like the way that Erica Kirk has handled it. So there is some schisms taking place here. There is some infighting that's going on in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's assassination. This should have been a moment of unity for them to get together and say, we are going to attack the left. The left did this. And yet there have been a lot of people who have been fighting one another in the aftermath of this, partially because it's a grift economy that they've cultivated, right? And there are always going to be different factions, different people that look at this and have a higher priority. Some people who hate Israel and want to say that this is Israel. Some people who dislike the information that has been given on this case so far. And then the misinformation landscape that we already have. It's kind of like with COVID. There were a lot of people who were hawking supplements as an alternative during the COVID era. But then there were also plenty of people who were doing it specifically to come out as like a different voice, an anti-intellectual voice. Right? So there are numerous reasons as to why people decide to communicate around this issue in the ways that they do. And it's almost always about clout, and clout means money, obviously, but in some instances, literally to hawk whatever supplements that they want to sell. And in other instances, is just to show themselves as like an earnest voice. Tying this back to Israel, if your highest priority is to say this is Israel's fault, is going to make you look more honest than the rest of these guys. These guys are all fake. These guys are all phony. They're farming Charlie Kirk's death in the wrong direction. What they should be doing instead is farming it in the direction that Israel did it. I say let them fight. I think ultimately there are some like interesting, there's some interesting information that has been released in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's death that like call into question exactly what happened, but that's always a given in high profile incidents like this. And it's especially more so a given nowadays in this misinformation landscape that we're in. But, you know, let them fight, I guess.
He used to love to journal about this topic all the time, and with such a heart postured of gratitude. And he believed that liberty was both a right and a responsibility. And he used to say, freedom is the ability to do what is right without fear. And that's how he lived. He was free from fear.
Trump is not amused by her. Yes, Trump doesn't like being upstaged.
Free from anything that
and he's currently being upstaged. He doesn't like to sit in the cuck chair as someone else speaks. We know that already. That's his like power play for every world leader.
And ironically, for a man who impacted millions, Charlie never desired to be the center of attention. He just wasn't. My husband was not a man of extravagance. He loved simple but deeply meaningful things. Truly. He loved his late night walks. He loved buying more books than he could ever read because he felt there was no such thing as a book budget. And he loved being able to read to our kids the same bedtime story on repeat because he knew it was their favorite. And But to him, that was
Dude,
special.
it's crazy that he can't even get himself to look even a little bit emotional. He is, I guess that is in some ways his like, he just can't even fake it, you know? And I guess that does communicate earnesty in many instances. But if he's trying to do something that requires him to, once again, not look like he's a bored toddler, it's not going to happen. His default position when he's not talking is just, I'm bored. Why am I not talking?
So the rhythm of our usual birthday celebration for him was mint ice cream, mint chocolate chip ice cream. He only had it twice a year, on his birthday and 4th of July. It's just...
That's a terrible choice for top ice cream flavor, low-key. Like, I know that's not the point here, but, I mean, chocolate chip cookie dough is right there. I know mint chocolate chip ice cream fans will go crazy over this, but I just don't understand toothpaste-flavored ice cream. I will never get it.
Birthday experience of his life until today.
L opinion? Okay, dude.
So, honestly, President Trump, I have spent 7.5 years trying to find the perfect birthday gift for Charlie. And it's so difficult. And those of you that have spouses or loved ones, you know how difficult it is sometimes to buy a gift for someone that you love, because he wasn't a materialistic man, so that also did not help. But now I can say with confidence, Mr. President, that you have given him the best birthday gift he could ever have.
I do have a hard time coming to terms with the fact that all of this is still being done for a podcaster, knowing full well that, yeah, this is the other side of the story, by the way. This is something that I've seen as well. A lot of like right-wingers are dunking on Erica Kirk. She's getting so much shit on Insta, even from fans. They feel like it's a grift and they're mad about the cover up and they feel like she's being blasphemous. Like they straight up think that like either she is not abiding by like religious doctrine. There's some people who are mad that like they suspect her of like converting Charlie to Catholicism. There's like a million different reasons. And they are very mad. Right-wingers have been yelling at her nonstop. I think partially this goes back to what I was talking about, which is that like everyone has a lot of unrestrained anger with no outlet, with no clear, decipherable, discernible movement, with no outlet whatsoever. And they are looking for like a pressure valve, but there is none. And things are only getting worse and worse. Material conditions are only worsening. And therefore, they just keep lashing out. And in some instances, they even lash out at their own allies. And I think that's what's going on here. There's no targets, so they just target whoever the is in their, whoever the they consider to be accessible.